Hey, well, tonight we're angry about the stimulus program. The stimulus program that just passed today, Wednesday, the 10th of March, 2021. And if you look back at this channel, the fourth show that we did last year was about the previous stimulus package. These stimulus packages are not what they seem to be. We are told that they are for our benefit. We are told that it is to help us, the people. It is not. It is to help the system. And not only that, but the efforts being made to save the system are bankrupting each and every one of us individually. It's not just this stimulus package passing, another $2 trillion borrowed that our children and grandchildren will have to repay. I don't understand why we seem to have no moral compunction about indebting our progeny in this way, yet on we go as if debt means nothing. $2 trillion apparently passed today, and there are more trillions to come. I believe President Biden is now planning to spend trillions on overcoming cancer and who knows what else. What worries me about this spending is the fact that eventually our money will become worthless. Now, we go on every day as if this will never happen, but it does happen. It happens to every country that makes money out of thin air, that prints money. It happened to Germany. It happened long before Germany. It's happened to Zimbabwe, and now it's happening in Venezuela. As a matter of fact, I can show you some data on Venezuela and give you some idea of what happens when your currency loses value. Let's start with this picture. This is from the central bank, and they are proudly announcing 3 new banknotes. They are introducing a 200,000 Bolivar note, a 500,000 Bolivar note, and a 1 million Bolivar note. The 1 million Bolivar note is worth about 50 US cents. What has caused this debacle in the Venezuelan financial system? What has caused them to have to issue 1 million Bolivar notes? Well, it's this. This is an index that Bloomberg came up with because Venezuela stopped reporting their inflation figures. It was impossible to determine exactly how bad inflation was there. So Bloomberg came up with what they called the Bloomberg Café con Leche index. It tracks the price of a cup of coffee at a bakery in eastern Caracas. Its price over the last year has jumped from 90,000 to 2.8 million bolivars, an increase of 3,000%. This is what it looks like in graph form. This is the sign of a currency collapsing. And I don't know why we would expect our currency not to collapse. You know, since the Federal Reserve was formed in 1913, the US dollar has lost, I believe, something like 98% of its value. And most of that loss accelerated since 1973 when we stopped exchanging our Federal Reserve notes for gold. We should not be happy at the thought of $1,400 being sent to those of us unfortunate enough to make less than $80,000 a year. First, it was promised that it would be $2,000 each. Now it's $1,400, and the limits are even lower than they were under President Trump. This money is insignificant. People who've lost their jobs are not going to be comforted or kept off the streets by $1,400 or even $2,800 for a couple. This is a sign of reckless money printing by the government. Once the government starts sending out money, number one, the people become indebted to the government, reliant on the government handout. And number two, it becomes impossible to criticize the government because then you may lose your handout. And the big issue is the fact that our money is going to lose value. We cannot create 2 trillion. We cannot have a debt of 30 trillion. We cannot run a deficit of $1 trillion a year indefinitely. If it could be done, it would have been done before now. If you don't believe that what I'm saying is true, then just think about what it is that you're saying. I am saying you cannot print money without having the value of money eventually go to zero. Can you possibly disagree with that? You cannot. If enough money is created, eventually it will find its true value, which is zero. And Voltaire is actually famous for making this exact point. He said, all fiat currency, which is currency not backed by anything, will ultimately be worth zero. And so it has been through all recorded time. Governments always want something for nothing. They always want to print money. They always want to buy votes. We are close to the end of the road here. We owe $30 trillion. We just passed a $2 trillion stimulus package. There are more stimulus packages coming. what do you think the value of our money is going to be? I hope we don't pass Venezuela. Can you imagine if it costs $3 million to buy a cup of coffee? Well, if your dollar becomes worth zero, it will cost even more. Please, let's not be happy that the government is borrowing trillions of dollars and sending us a pittance. What they're doing is reducing the value of our currency, and it will ultimately be reduced to zero. Please, let's wake up.